Can you smell that? Free agency is just over a week away, and the Philadelphia Eagles have to make decisions on 20 players who are currently set to be released into the open waters. But who should they bring back and who should be thrown into the ocean? My name is Jenkins, and today we're going to be playing a game of should they stay or should they go. But before we get into it, congratulations, because you, yes you, watching this right now in bed at 3 in the morning have been selected with the 21st overall pick. You're our shiny new wide receiver, and we are just going to keep slinging you Eagles content for as long as you can handle. All we ask you to do is catch that deep subscribe touchdown, join the family, do not drop it and make me call you Nelson Aguilar, okay? You've got a job to do now, just catch that ball. Now we're going to filter through these players by 2019 contract value, meaning that the name first on the list is likely one of the toughest decisions that Howie has to make, purely because A, it directly correlates to the future of another player, and B, he's the only player currently on a club option, and that is something often forgotten when discussing him. Malcolm Jenkins has played in 96 consecutive games for the Eagles and has barely missed a snap in that time frame. If you're to look at the top 10 highest paid safeties of 2019 in the league in terms of guaranteed money, then at least 30% of their contracts are guaranteed, with Landon Collins leading the way with a sweltering 60%. Jenkins had 0, and he played in every single snap. Now, he told reporters after the season that he refuses to be back on the same deal, forcing the ball into Howie's court, but it's a double-edged sword. The Eagles paid Carson Wentz handsomely, they paid Brandon Brooks handsomely, and Jenkins just waited, as he did at the beginning of the offseason, as he did at the beginning of the last. Not making a fuss, just letting it play out. It's not like we can really use age as an argument either, because he never misses a play from a durability standpoint and is always among the Eagles' top defensive performers despite a slight dip in play last year. His role is a unique one, with Jim Schwartz using him as a remote-controlled missile, but it's worth noting that Rodney McLeod did play in the box far more than we're used to seeing in 2019. I love Malcolm Jenkins, but if Howie set a tone by parting ways with Jason Peters, I can't really see them guaranteeing Jenkins money when it goes directly against Howie's ethos of, well, bending every rule in the book to its extremities before handing over that dollar up front. The Eagles should do Jenkins a solid and let him hit the free agency market. If he finds a new deal, great for him, he absolutely deserves it. And if not, he'll always have a home in Philadelphia, and he knows that. For the right price, of course. Verdict, go. Next up, Rodney McLeod, and this is the player that of course directly correlates to Malcolm Jenkins. Now, before his injury in 2018, I thought he played outstandingly well. He lost his big payday due to that injury and was forced to play through last season on what essentially became a prove-it deal. He was one of the more consistent players on the Eagles roster, and outside of a few missed tackles, he had less communication breakdowns than Jenkins when rotating coverages, and to me, he had the better season. He said he wants to be back. I think the Eagles afford him that opportunity and will bring in a baby Jenk to grow alongside him. Verdict, stay. Ronald Darby. He's about as likely to return as my ex-girlfriend. But I would just like to point out one final time that the most disliked video on this channel was the take where I said he was the worst signing of the offseason because he can't tackle. I expect a 500-word apology from every single one of you that disliked that video, or I may cry myself to sleep. Verdict, just get out, just leave, get out, go, be gone, I'm done with it, go. Nate Sudfeld, see, this is a tricky one in my eyes, because if the Eagles really believed in Nate Sudfeld, and I mean really believed in Nate Sudfeld, he would have been QB2 when he returned from that preseason injury. Instead, the Eagles kept relying on McCown on both instances where Wentz exited again. Even in 2018, Sudfeld was dropped in when Nick Foles briefly left, only to hand the ball off once and be promptly yanked out, whereas McCown and Foles were both allowed to let it rip. Sure, Suddy got a tuddy thanks to a dump pass to Aguilar, but I think he's hit his ceiling after 3 years. Lurie wants to draft a quarterback every season, Clayton Dawson didn't work out, and I think it's time to bring in a new QB2 and reset that cycle, drafting a new project arm in the later rounds. Verdict, sorry Suddy, but it is time to say bye. Nelson, just go, I'm not even going to entertain the idea, it's done, it's run its course, he's gone, forget it. Done, we're moving on. Vinny Curry is another interesting case in my eyes, because on the surface, he had a quiet season upon his return home, but then, out of nowhere, there was an explosion. He amassed 4 of his 5 sacks that season in the last 5 games of 2019 and would end up tying TJ Watt for pressure rate according to Pro Football Focus, getting to the QB on 16.8% of snaps, ranking 5th in that metric out of 99, which isn't bad. Now his snap count from 2017 in the Super Bowl run did dip from 55% to 38%, but it's clear that Curry is still of value to the Eagles, both in terms of on-the-field production and leadership away from it. The Eagles know what they're getting in Curry. Yes, they overpaid for him back in the day, but after watching him in Tampa Bay, bringing him back on a shorter contract, they know his value in this scheme under Schwartz. It's home for Curry. And the Eagles are entering a tricky window with Derek Barnett, and beneath him lies a total mystery. Will Sharif Miller develop this offseason? Is Sweat capable of being a starter? It's young, it's unproven, the Eagles need a rock on either side, they've got Brandon Graham, it's time to keep Vinny Curry. Verdict? Stay. Josh McCown, I can't see coming back as a player, but what about as a 5th spoke on the wheel of the offensive coordinator? No, never mind. He's bound to be an amazing coach one day on a serious note, and I think he will catch on somewhere, but I don't think he's entirely ready to hang up the boots just yet and may put the pads on one more time, although I do think that will be outside of Philadelphia. Sorry Josh, it's an emotional goodbye, but we all love you. Verdict, go. Timmy Jernigan, I feel so sorry for this man. Well, I did. He lost his huge payday after a heartbreaking injury, but then confusingly signed a new deal with that team worth peanuts in comparison, and then started shouting about how dirty the team and the league did him. You didn't have to sign, Timmer. That was you. You put the... Never mind. Anyway, his season was cut short, shock, due to injury, and I think at this stage the Eagles have exercised every avenue. It's time to move on and actually find some stability for a generational pass rusher that is having to carry the unit by himself each and every season. It's a damn right shame. They can't afford to waste his prime years. They've got to get him a decent running mate that's slightly more durable. I think they have that in Malik Jackson, so it's time for Jernigan to say bye-bye. Verdict, go. Richard Rodgers. The Eagles do need to add a TE3, but I'm not sure exactly why Rodgers continues to linger despite getting injured so much. He's an okay inline blocker, but the Eagles will be better off farming their own talent or at least bringing in someone new. Verdict, go. Hassan Ridgeway. For me, the acquisition of Ridgeway in exchange for a 7th round pick during the NFL draft was one of the off-season steals for the Eagles. He's only just turned 25 and was originally a 4th round pick back in 2016, but arguably in the wrong system. In 2 weeks for the Eagles, he played in 55 snaps, 36% in week 1 and 47% in week 2. But when Jackson and Jernigan both left with injuries, his role would increase and his production followed suit. With 2 sacks and 6 tackles in 3 weeks, Ridgeway was firing on all cylinders before... Well, you know what happened next. The injury bug happened. He had 2 sacks, 4 QB hits, and 4 tackles for a loss in his short stint replacing the defensive tackles above him on the roster, and flashed plenty of upside in the process. He's young, he's bound to be cheap, clearly has a lot of unharnessed potential, and with a new defensive line coach in town and a total lack of depth, this makes too much sense. Verdict, stay. Next up, Jordan Howard, and this is another really interesting case here because through the opening 9 weeks of the season, Howard would carry the ball 119 times for 525 yards, amassing his highest yards per carry since 2017, and of course recording a hat-trick of touchdowns against the Packers. I was all for the Jordan Howard move before the trade was even announced. I put a film room on this channel because I genuinely thought he would bring that downhill mentality left behind by LeGarrette Blount, and he did exactly that. He was the perfect thunder and lightning combination, the partner in crime that Miles Sanders needed, who in his rookie year did have a lot of teething problems. He didn't come out of the gate as a bona fide star. He's gradually built his way up and worked out some of those kinks in his game, and thanks in large part to Jordan Howard being able to shoulder that weight. There was a significant chunk of the fan base that wanted Howard back mid-season, but then the curse of the injury bug struck once again. Howard was absent from week 9 till the end of the regular season with a confusing stinger injury where clearly there was more to it than meets the eye. But the injury that Howard sustained may lead to a quieter market than that if he'd recorded yet another impressive full season. It could also lead to a cheaper contract and a return home for number 24. I think the Eagles should be all in on Jordan Howard if he's cheap and viable enough. He may want starter level money, he may want to secure that bag, but I think that if he wants a secure long-term future, the Eagles could incentivize a deal and make sure that thunder and lightning combination remains in Philadelphia for the foreseeable future, and I don't think you can really be opposed to that if it's a good financial decision. Verdict, stay. Alapula Vaitai. I love Vaitai and have never understood the public frustration with his name. He's held his own at left tackle, he's held his own at right tackle. He shut down Everson Griffin in 2017, he filled in Fellaini Johnson's PED suspension. He's definitely pushing for a starting role and will command a big payday. I'd love to keep a backup so valuable, but he's outgrown that role and there's no way he's going to get a shot with the Eagles now, thanks to the drafting of Andre Dillard. Goodbye, Big Bear. Verdict, it's a disappointing go. Camus Grugier-Hill. As you know on this channel, I'm a massive KGH fan. I love his speed, I love his hustle on special teams, I love his flashes of really solid play. I dislike the fact he lied about a concussion to stay in the game, and the Eagles know already they need to reinvent their linebacker corps, and there was never really any punishment for what KGH did. After letting Braddon walk, they have to be all in on rebuilding that position. However, the pros outweigh the cons here. I think you bring back KGH on a short-term deal. Verdict, stay. Jalen Mills is another tricky one because they cannot afford to let him start again. I'm sorry, but he's just not a great corner. He did surprise me with the way he rebounded from injury and brought a new patience to his game, but that took 4 years to implement. If the Eagles can bring back a player they clearly love in a rotational role, however, then I'm all for it, and I think he should stick around as that CB3 or CB4, or maybe even used in red zone packages for the red zone truthers among us. Verdict, stay, but only if he's not starting. King Craig James is probably gonna lose his crown. Sorry, Craig. There's a lot of young talent at cornerback with Maddox, Jones, Mills, Douglas and LeBlanc, and there isn't much room considering the rebuilding with the task ahead. Off with his head, I'm afraid, King Craig. Verdict, go. Corey Clement, perhaps maybe one of the most perplexing players in recent memory, and the Eagles should probably just admit defeat here. Nobody will ever forget his amazing Super Bowl outing. Unfortunately, everyone's gonna forget what happened after that because, well, did anything happen? Like, at all? Clement's battled injury since entering the league, and it may be time that he finds a new home. Verdict, go. Finally, Cameron Johnston, and this should be obvious. For some reason, the Eagles were able to extend both Jake Elliott and Rick Lovato during the heart of the season, but their star punter remained unaccounted for and is now set to hit free agency. Whenever the Eagles' offense sputtered to a grinding halt, which was often, it was Johnston's iron leg that at least negated what would have been promising field position. It's a real shame that the Aussie doesn't get the credit he deserves. Through the weeks where the defense was dragging an offense back into games, it was Johnston who was giving Schwartz and his men a realistic chance to do so. He ranked inside the top 15 of just about every metric possible, with his average of around 46.4 yards per punt, ranking him 9th in the NFL. At one point, he was actually over the 50 mark, and 28 of his 71 punts landed inside the opponent's 20. In fact, his 2 seasons with the Eagles have been more than just impressive, with a net punting average of both 42.7 and 42.3, both ranking inside the top 30 net single season averages of all time. Keep Cam and his iron leg, do it, do the thing, do it now. Verdict, stay. But what do you think, guys? Who would you bring back? Who would you let go? Let us know down in the comments below. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch this video. From myself, Liam Jenkins, I'll see you next time.